Beautiful. G'day, everybody. It is Dylan and Zak, and we're back with the Process podcast for episode 3. We just had snack. Actually, we had peanut butter sandwiches.
It was a great peanut butter sandwich.
Very, very good.
Needed.
Lindor chocolates.
Little dessert.
How many Lindor chocolates did you have?
I only had 2.
Only had 2.
I restrained myself.
I think I had like 7.
Yeah.
And we've got coffee. So as far as I'm concerned, everything in life is good right now.
Everything is great.
Yeah, it's fucking fantastic. Like we've already done 2 episodes so far, and it's been a lot of fun. Like surprisingly, just the 2 of us just sitting here going back and forth. We've done it countless of times, just never on record. Like the amount of conversations that we've had together, you could probably create like a full 800-hour library.
Oh yeah,
of podcast episodes.
All those late night. Just got back from the shop.
Oh yeah,
having a coffee before going to bed.
Well, we used to do tea, right?
Or tea
sometimes
at night.
Sometimes we'd do coffee, and it
Depends
just
on how rough the
wouldn't
night
do
was.
anything.
Depending on the night.
But like we had this red LED light in our living room. We'd flick that on, turn off all the other lights, open all the windows. So it's nice and cool. And I'd sit there in sweatpants and a hoodie and just vibe on the couch, drink tea.
Conversations.
Yeah, go to bed. Beautiful times.
Yeah.
Now we're not doing that. Now we're sitting in my bedroom, actually. That's our current makeshift podcast studio. And yeah, we're just enjoying the coffee and enjoying doing this whole podcast thing. Only 3 episodes in, this being the 3rd installment of the Process podcast series. But we're going to probably go down more nostalgic lanes today. I don't personally myself, in terms of podcasts, I don't like the idea of having like a strict set of items that we have to talk through, like a script almost. I don't like reading off of a script. I like the unscripted nature of certain podcasts, and there's some podcasts out there that are like that, and I do really enjoy, but there's also some out there that are probably more question focused and say you go through just different line items like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's the extent of the thing, which is fine. But I like how I think what we've been able to do, Zak, is we've started off with a general idea, and then we just end up riffing off on that.
Yeah, we see where the conversation goes. Usually reminds us of something else.
Yeah, it never ends up in the same place that we expect it to.
Especially when we're talking about stories of design school.
And there's so many stories.
Go off on tangents.
But I know you've told me a few times, but probably never in full. But what was, in terms of picking industrial design, because obviously we both came out of high school, both went into this industrial design program and into the design field in general. But I think the way that we approached selecting industrial design as our, say, career of choice, for now anyways, was different. What was your, like, what's Zak's industrial design?
Zak's industrial design story.
Where does the saga begin?
Well, I think it's always been interesting. I mean, again, throughout the program, hearing our friends and other people talk about how they got there, why they chose it. I think it's always an interesting story to listen to. Yeah, mine was kind of interesting because I guess I've always been into art. Always liked, like ever since, for as long as I remember, always liked drawing. Always like painting, always like making models. I remember all the way until, way back when I was really young. I remember making models with my dad and my granddad, like little plastic kit models like that.
Model cars.
Like jets, helicopters, tanks, the military, like the classic
all the cool
Revel
stuff.
Or Tamiya little kits, So I always had that creative side. And then going into high school, probably the first 2 years, didn't really think much about like, what am I going to do after high school? Because I was like, I still got time left, whatever. I always thought, at that point, I think I had kind of developed the appreciation for architecture. I wouldn't say I already figured out that I love design, but something I started to realize like, oh, like I'm starting to like the way things look, specifically like buildings,
like aesthetics,
aesthetics
would
and
you
stuff
say?
like that, and not just being into art, but also being into design without labeling it as, oh, I
As
like
an interest in
design.
design.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I just thought, I was like, oh, it's creative. Not everyone likes it, but I find it kind of cool. Um, like I remember in grade 10 going with my family on a vacation to New York City and just walking around
Mm-hmm.
looking at all the buildings. I always thought it was cool. So I thought probably by grade 10 or the end, maybe I'll do architecture. That'd be
Yeah.
kind of really cool.
Architecture design,
Art, yeah,
architectural design.
yeah. I think that would be a really cool path to follow, go
For
into.
sure.
My parents were like, yeah, go for it. That's super cool. And I knew it was totally plausible too. Like it's not like it's a super out there idea.
Yeah, it's not super niche. Like lots of people go to school and do architecture.
Yeah,
Right? It's nothing. That's nothing new.
And yeah, exactly. And I was like,
It's
oh,
not
it's
too
totally possible. And then probably about grade 11 again, I was like, yeah, architecture is gonna be it. Because I always thought, well, I'd love to like do art because that's where I really have a passion for and really enjoy doing art and being creative. But I was like, it's that cliche of like, you're gonna be a professional artist, like have fun making money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like most people always say, well, you're gonna have to find some other job to support you and you'll have to do that on the side or whatever, right? So there's always that kind of back of your mind, like, well, architecture is creative, but probably more likely I'm going to make some money doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Going to grade 12, I think someone just switched and I decided like, no, I think I would love to be an engineer.
Interesting.
What engineer? Really? Not sure. But all of a sudden, I got more into engineering type things.
Like the drafting stuff.
The drafting stuff and things like that. And I think going back again when I was really young, always loved as a kid, like just learning how things are made.
Like taking apart your computer.
Taking apart, I remember parents having whenever there was an old VHS player or printer or old whatever electronic device, and I would just take it apart. Just because it was fun, not like because I was actually looking at like, I wonder how this piece of metal was formed. But it's not that. as a 10-year-old, I was just like, this is fun, right?
Yeah,
looking at like, oh, that
breaking shit. It's
yeah,
fun.
like look at this, looks like a cool piece, like but not really understanding like why I like it or what that means. But just like, oh, I like this fun, and I'm sure, or I know a lot of the other people in the program, like myself, younger, growing up watching How It's Made, loving that show, right? Again, kind of think weird for like a young kid to be into that. It's not weird, but it's more niche.
It's a niche thing. Like it's easier to be interested in baseball or soccer or hockey.
Right. And like that was the thing, I was less interested in sports and more interested like watching the show on assembly line production. Like it's weird, but
this is how plastic bottles are made.
Exactly. But I liked it. That, and I remember, always growing up loving Lego and any sort of building constructive toy like that. Or
do you have Connects?
I had Connects.
Love that.
Lego. I had some of my dad's old Meccano or whatever it's called.
Oh, Meccano,
Meccano. I guess whatever you want to pronounce. Yeah.
Tomato.
Yeah, like little metal things you'd actually put together, like bolts and stuff like that.
Did you ever have
Mega Bloks, all that type of stuff?
Mega Bloks.
Yeah, the rip off of like.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Did you have like I used to have these sets of dragons by Mega Bloks.
Yeah, the knights. Oh my god, we only got rid of that not too long ago. We had a giant bin full of. I had like every set.
Really?
I have the instruction books for.
Did you have that blue dragon?
I had all of them. Like when I'm saying when I have all of them, I had every set.
Wow.
That Mega Bloks, whatever knights fantasy thing, whatever they had, every single set. Because I still this day, I still have like all the Lego I had and everything like that. And I always kept, because I inherited some of my brother's Lego and even my dad's from like, the 80s, like the old stuff.
Wow.
We always kept all the instruction books for all the kits.
Smart. Same
with the Mega Bloks stuff. So we have them somewhere. I go back through and I have all of them. Yeah, I had all those.
Wow.
See, I've always been into that kind of figuring things out, like how it works, how things are made, how do you build certain things. So I guess that's where the engineering kind of side of things came through. And I was almost positive. I was like, I'm going to do engineering. So going into final year of high school, I constructed the worst, year I could possibly do with taking, all the maths that were available, all the sciences, or I guess not biology, but I did like,
You had to do chemistry, I guess, right?
Chemistry, and I did, like the advanced functions math, and then like calculus and vectors. And
Terrible.
like I had everything, right? And I just made my last year living hell because I was like, I'm so positive I'm going to go into engineering. And when it came to me picking university and college courses, most of them, 90% of them, were engineering courses.
Yeah.
I applied for like mechatronics, mechanical, civil engineering, software engineering, like all of them, because I was so convinced this is what I'm going to do. And one of them was still in architecture. It was architecture at Carleton, which I believe you applied for the same one.
The architectural design program? Yeah, I applied to that.
Which would have been funny because if we both could have met there.
We could have met there. Exactly.
Which is kind of cool. But so I had that one, and then I remember kind of getting the feeling, or when I went and did some tours around these universities and colleges, these engineering programs. First of all, seeing like the students show off the stuff they're working on, like, oh, we built this robot and all that. I'm like, okay, that is super cool.
A fucking robot?
Yeah, I'd love to be a part of that. I could see myself doing it. But then looking at kind of the outlines of the program, looking, okay, for the first 2 years, you've got one engineering class, and the rest is like, okay, you're doing physics, chemistry, calculus,
theory courses,
linear algebra, all this stuff, and you're like. Nope. I'm like, okay, I understand to be an engineer, you got to know this stuff and you got to be good at it. But the way I looked at it was like, okay, do I want to be staying up doing late nights or all nighters, doing math equations and lab reports?
Nope.
And I was like, deep down, I knew automatically. I was like, that's just the gut feeling. I was like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Even though it's like, just get through the first 2 years and then you can do all the cool engineering classes and do, make robots. And it's like, I wouldn't be able to get through the first 2 years. Deep down, I know that's not me.
No way.
And so there I'm stuck with, well, I just kind of spent all my applications for both college and university on engineering courses.
Physical money.
And money for paying for those applications. Thinking, now realizing, well, I don't want to do engineering. So I'm like, okay, do I go to this architecture one? And I was very, very tempted.
Yeah.
And then I had one college application left that I didn't know what I was going to do. Wow. My parents are like, you just think of something, like you don't have to go with it, but you paid for it, so you might as well use it, right?
Massage therapy.
Program. Almost became a massage. No, I'm like sitting at the computer, like I don't know what to pick, like what to think of. At that point, I felt defeated because I was so positive I was gonna do engineering, and now I don't know. Yeah. I'm back to not knowing.
That's tough.
And I always thought I was lucky because most people in high school have no idea what they want to do. And at the end, I was like, I was so confident. I was like, I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. And now I'm like, oh, no, I'm back to square one. No idea.
Figured the puzzle, and then you realize there's like 2 pieces missing.
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
And you're like, oh, God damn it. So I'm thinking, trying to come up with something just to like fill up the space so I don't feel like I wasted that money buying that application. And I thought back to, I would have been a couple of months before picking these programs. Me and my dad, like every year, go to the Toronto International Auto Show.
Right.
Because we're both car nerds. And
that's at the International Center in Toronto, isn't it?
Maybe. I don't even know what
perhaps. It's a big building.
Or is it exhibition? I don't know. Something
no,
like
exhibition
place or something? I don't.
Maybe. I've never been.
I'm actually not sure what the building's called. But we go every year. We absolutely love cars. Always have from as soon as I can remember. Probably because of my dad.
Big car family.
Definitely because of my dad. Yeah, big car family. And previous, months before we went there, I remember one of the halls right in the middle was this little booth for Humber College. I just remembered it.
That's our school.
And I remember walking past it with my dad, being interested because obviously I was at that time thinking of what I wanted to do for post-secondary. And there's this booth with a teacher, which thinking about it now, probably Bruce, which I'm sure we'll talk about
probably
later on because love him. And some other students there, and some of them were doing sketching. They had clay models on display, and then the wall to the right of it, there was just a big wall full of car sketches and car renders.
Wow.
Like concept car stuff. And I remember looking at it like, oh my God, this is so cool. And thinking like, well, I've always loved cars, always loved drawing, but I never thought I could be a car designer because I never thought this program existed in Canada.
Yeah.
So I always thought, well, the closest place I could go to take this program would be like the States. And at that time, going out of high school, like moving to a different country, that seems so far fetched.
Yeah.
The money too and everything. I'm like, well, this is not going to happen. So I was like, so I'm reminiscing and thinking, okay, what is this called? So I looked up Humber College Car Design. And here pops up the industrial design program.
That's us.
So I click on it, go to Humber website, and then that's when I start scrolling through. They had the outline for all the programs or all the classes.
Right.
Throughout the 4 years, and I'm going through, and that's when I started realizing, like, oh my God, model making, sketching, you know, all this design stuff, artsy stuff, and then bam, car design.
Boom. It's there.
You know, I'm going through like all this stuff and looking at some of the pictures and stuff like that they had on the website, I think, of the program. I'm like, and I think there was a picture of like the clay room.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's still on the website.
With someone doing like a clay model, or there was a clay model in the background, or some sketches. And I'm like, that is, I was like, do you know what? All of a sudden, I went from not knowing what I was going to do again to like deep down knowing like, oh my God, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the one thing. I thought I was engineering. I thought it was this, thought it was that. No, this is it. This is it. So I apply. And obviously it was like every other program I applied for was just like, well, just apply. With this one, it's like, well, you got to send in a portfolio.
Yeah, let's see this portfolio. Carleton had a portfolio thing too, though, right?
Oh, true, but I never went far enough through the application to.
Oh no,
send in a portfolio?
Oh really?
I was close. I was ready to like hit the trigger and be like.
But you didn't.
But I didn't because I just before found like that night I was gonna do the application for Carleton.
Wow.
And then I was like, well, I'm just gonna one last.
Let me just
think of like
this industrial design thing real quick.
So I'm like, okay, I read and it's like, oh, you know, the portfolio. At first I was like, I don't really. I guess I have artwork from school I could throw in. Then it was like, no, you got to do this. And it was like, I remember it was like, you had to draw a chair in 2-point perspective without a ruler. Then it was like, you have to draw a kitchen appliance, and it listed like either a kettle, a stove, or a blender or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And it was like, again, 2-point perspective, no ruler. Then there was like, do a still life in color, and then some sort of 3D object.
Yeah, like something physical.
Something physical 3D object, and then it was like
4 of your own pieces.
Up to 4 of your own pieces that you can throw in.
And there was a writing piece too.
And then there was a writing piece of like resume. Why you wanted to be in the program.
Do you still have that document?
Maybe.
I have it on one of my hard drives. I think one of these next episodes we should get out that initial letter and read it.
If I can find it, I have a bad feeling I might not have it.
Deleted it.
But I know roughly what I said in it, because I was like, at that point I got all inspired, like immediately thinking like, this is what I want to do. I know it now. This is it. So kind of going from, and at that point I still had no idea what industrial design, even going through the classes, I'm like, you know, it said visual communications, model making, 2D and 3D design principles, vehicle design studio. I had rough ideas, but I still didn't know what industrial design is.
You just have no clue what it is.
And then I think when I started getting into it was when I started doing that work for the portfolio to send in. And I was like, well, I wonder how they want me to sketch this kettle or this chair.
How am I going to do this?
So I remember like Googling like industrial design sketches.
Yeah. Yep.
And there was like kettles and stuff like that popped up. And like, you know, there was like typical like product design stuff that popped up. And so I looked at that style and I tried to, you know, emulate that style in this piece for the portfolio. And then once I got that done, I think in one of the 4 of my personal pieces, I did like a car sketch.
Oh, really?
Which looking back on it is kind of crap.
Yeah,
but it's
probably.
Actually almost not as bad as I remember, but I did it. I think it was good at the time. I sent that in being like, well, this is another new experience of applying for a program. I have to send in work
Mm-hmm.
to try and like get the
It's
part,
like a job application.
get the job, you know?
Here's my resume.
Yeah, it was kind of scary. And then I don't know, I've always said this has nothing to do with the quality of my portfolio, but I got an answer pretty quick.
Did you?
And I think it was maybe they're just going through it at the time or something, but I applied, and then it was like within the next week.
Oh, wow. That is
I
fast.
got the email saying congratulations or whatever, like you can like you've been accepted. And then that's when they mailed that like a package.
Oh, yeah.
It was like the gold envelope, welcome to Humber package, and it had like
We are Humber.
like a lapel pin and whatever, some form saying congratulations, you've been accepted.
Did you get like a legitimate acceptance, or was that conditional?
No, it was a legitimate acceptance.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know there was a conditional thing, really.
Yeah,
and then
I got a conditional offer.
Yeah, until we got to talk to some other students there, and they're like, "Oh, I got a conditional." I was like, "What?" I mean, again, that's why I always say it's not because of my skill at the time. It was like, I don't know what happened. Maybe they just saw something that was like, or maybe, you know, in that sketch when I looked up industrial design sketches,
Mm-hmm.
I had kind of done that style enough where they said like,
well enough that they're
copied
like,
it well enough that they looked.
This guy can do it.
Maybe maybe there's something to it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I thought, well, you know, if I liked art and what at that time I thought I liked design, and I don't know this program exists, then most people probably don't know this program exists. So I was like, it's probably super niche, and there's probably barely anyone that applied for it.
Probably.
And that's why I got it so quick, because it's like, you know, I don't know if they ever said they only take like 60.
The cap is typically between 60 and 70. Like that's the capacity that they have.
Yeah.
And if they get below 60, then it's not ideal, because obviously there's less money coming in.
Yeah, and I can't remember, I guess the first day or whatever, seeing everyone there, someone be like, this is the whole program, like for the year. It's like, wow, it's a lot smaller. And then we're starting to talk to other people, and they're saying, no, like quite a few people applied for this program.
Yep.
Like hundreds.
I think in our year, 786 applicants, excluding the people who got in. So say you add 60 on top of that, 840 odd people. That's a lot of people.
And I think once I learned that too, I kind of tried to keep that with me, remind myself that every time in hard times, I'm like, okay, you know, 1 out of almost 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in, and I was like, there's got to, you know, they saw something.
Yeah, they picked me for a reason.
There's some reason, right? So I was like, I try to remind myself of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I found out about it.
It's just through through seeing that booth at the auto shop.
And that's why I think throughout a lot of us, the vehicle design side of things, we're trying to get, because Humber doesn't do that anymore. And we try to, you know, talk to the teachers. It is expensive. That's the biggest thing. I mean, it's any sort of booth space in a show like that is pricey.
Very expensive.
But I was like, you know, it doesn't matter how pricey it is. Like, and I know there's been other, you know, friends of ours or one friend specifically, Sebastian, name drop, who
Sebastian Costello,
I think he said he found out about the program the same way at that booth.
Wow.
I was like, well, they just got, you know, whatever, how much, 40 grand times 2.
A lot. 80.
Yeah.
$80,000.
Yeah. You know, times time. Yeah. So like they already got like, you know, that much money from just 2 people who saw that booth. That's the booth paid for.
Yeah. Easy.
More than paid for, right? So I think it's worth it. Especially having the amount of people walking around there. Pretty much everyone around that show at least appreciates cars.
Yeah. That's why they're there in the first place.
That's why they're there in the first place. And if you get 5 people
boom,
who never knew this existed, and that's why they never thought of doing it as a profession, because they didn't know it existed in Canada. You know, even if you get 5 people to apply, that's
a lot.
That's it, right? And so I think that's the reason why I was in there.
Just because you saw it there that one day.
Just because I saw it there, and I remembered the name Humber,
and it's stuck in your head ever since.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then again, every time going through a hard time in the first 2 years, I'm thinking like, just gotta get to third year and I get to vehicle design. I can draw cars. Like, you know, I'm close. All the time. And it was worth it. I mean,
it paid off.
It paid off.
Right.
It's just cool that it was, you know, And I swear I'm not making up that I only, the fact that I only had one application left. It always sounds too good to be true.
It sounds very like this is part of a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. Without being cheesy, like it kind of feels like that sometimes, but I'm like, I'm glad I just remember like what else, I was in that position thinking like, where else did I ever see like an ad for a college or university or like anything that I would be interested in,
It's strange, isn't it?
And then I think one of the coolest things is I probably didn't realize until maybe second or third year was that industrial design is like, and this was kind of how I would describe to people that don't know what it is.
It's not designing factories.
No. Is that it's like the perfect middle ground, the perfect blend between engineering and art.
Yeah. Easy.
You get
no question about it.
You get the creative side from the art, and then you get the functionality, the manufacturing, the details from the engineering side.
Push the two of them together, you get industrial design.
Exactly. And I think what's cool is thinking back of, the things that I loved and was interested in growing up fits that, right?
Yeah.
Being creative and drawing and making models, but then also trying to figure out how things work.
Yeah.
Or how things are made. That makes so much sense.
100%. Did you have like a favorite toy or something when you were growing up that you were like, I just like how this looks, like how it feels?
I mean, I would say favorite toy is gotta be Lego.
Yeah.
100%, which I think is like the best toy ever made.
Easy.
I think absolutely it has to be. So I love that. There's probably things that I realize like I just like the look of this. Yeah. And I don't know why. I don't know why it's satisfying, but it's satisfying to look at.
Yeah.
And then when you get at that, once you're in the program, you realize, well, I guess I liked it because I like design. I just didn't think, just didn't have a word to put to it,
Yeah, there wasn't a label that you could put on it at that point in time.
No, not yet.
Because you're like, oh, well, like, I like it. I don't know why. I don't know what it means. I just do.
Yeah.
And that's wild. Like, you could have easily not gone to the auto show that day.
Exactly.
You could have missed them.
Like, if I didn't go, and actually, I think back, I think it was the first year we went.
Wow. That was 2016 or 2015?
2016, I think. It would have been like January, February of 2016, the last year of high school. Yeah, and then I would have been doing the applications probably around April. Yeah. No, or May, April, May-ish.
I got my acceptance in May 2016.
Something, yeah, around then.
Because I think we could apply like up until end of February. Or no, second week of March.
Oh, no, that's right. No, I got my application in March.
Yeah.
I think I applied the second last week and I got it the last week.
Yeah, because there was a deadline.
No, I think about it. Yeah, in high school, they're like, you have to submit. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you never ended up submitting the Carleton thing?
No, I didn't actually, no. I was about to, and I was about to like go all in. And then
you're like, no, this industrial design stuff's real cool, man.
Yeah. Well, I was just like, I'm just going to take one last think at what other program I could apply for. And then
like a double check.
Yeah, double check. And that one last check was it.
It stuck out. Wow.
It stuck out, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I think that was the first year I went to the auto show.
That's lucky.
Because we never went. And before that, and my dad and I were trying to figure out something to do and trying to look for like car shows or something like that, and saw that online.
Quality father-son bonding time.
Yeah, and I was like, this is cool. I mean, we've always like going to car shows together and looking at cars. This sounds cool. Go there, and
your entire life changed.
Of course, Hummer's got a booth, and then that was the last year too.
Yeah, I think they did it. I remember talking to Bruce about it because we talked to Bruce a couple times since then about going back to the auto show, and hopefully, I mean, maybe we don't even have to be students. Maybe I'm sure we can work something around to hopefully get Humber back into the auto show. But I remember talking to him. I think maybe they did it a year or two before that as well. But I don't think, like you said, they haven't done it since.
No. Yeah, because I've gone every year since, and
they've never been there.
Never been there.
And you would have been there if they had been, because you ended up taking the auto design stream.
Yeah, which would have been cool. And I think it's one of those sad things too. I'm like, man, every time I go, I'm like, I wonder like how many people here are that kind of think they would love to do what I did, but don't know it exists.
Yeah. How many young kids are out there?
Right.
And that's hopefully the idea that we can do with this, right?
Yeah.
Like there
Industrial
could be
design
someone listening.
exists. It's a
Yeah.
thing.
It's a thing. It's fun. It's cool. Do it.
You know? Yeah.
You can go to school for something creative.
You can draw cars.
You can draw cars, and it's a lot of fun. Even though I'm pretty crap at drawing cars, to be honest.
They're kind of difficult.
They are very difficult.
They're
Not kind of. They're very
a
difficult.
little challenging.
I can draw shoes, no problem, but cars, absolutely not.
A little more
Forget it.
difficult.
But
yeah, I'm sure my experience is very different from yours.
kind of similar in certain aspects, but different in more aspects, I guess. I remember in grade 10, we had civics and careers as a class,
Yep.
and we had to do some like online test, and it was to determine what career you're most likely to take in the future.
I might remember that too.
Number 1 was an architect. Number 2 was an engineer. Number 3 was, I don't even know what. Stop paying attention after that. So like from grade 10 on, I was pretty convinced that I'm going to go to school for architecture. It's going to be it. And I started tailoring a lot of my design or art related projects to architecture. Like we had to do a 2-point perspective ruler drawing.
Yeah.
Using just a fixed horizon line and then altering the horizon points along it so that you could make something. And I was like, oh, I'll do this really wild conceptual building, which I ended up putting in my portfolio, actually. Pretty cool piece. And just like from grade 10, all I wanted to do was architecture. And I was pretty convinced. I was pretty confident. And then like grade 12 comes around, and they're like, okay, well, this is your last year of high school. Now you have to worry about submitting like applications to colleges and universities and think about what you're going to do with the rest of your life. I'm like, huh, that's depressingly terrifying.
A bit terrifying.
But I was like, no, I'm fine. I know I'm going to do architecture, and I know that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be great at it. That's going to be it. So I didn't think much else. I came across industrial design on Humber's website, maybe, because I was looking at one of the architecture programs that Humber had, which was an architecture technology program. So not real architecture, basically an architect's secretary.
Yeah, I remember looking at that one too.
And I was like, this sounds like it's my gig. I know I'm going to do it. I was still pretty hell-bent on going to Carleton, which is Carleton's in Ottawa, Canada, Ontario. And I was pretty hell-bent on going there because I liked the idea of it. One of the guys that I used to go to elementary school with, who was a year older than me, was at Carleton and was doing really well. And he said, it's hard, but it's a lot of fun. And I was like, yeah, that's it. Cool. So I remember like in the first semester of, did we call it semesters in high school? Yeah. First semester of high school, I was going to all these different open houses and everything. Went to the Ryerson open house, which is a university in Toronto, and did Ryerson, Carleton, Waterloo, and then a couple colleges. Did Humber College and Conestoga College, OCAD, Ontario College of Art and Design. Went there for the industrial design open house. Went to as many open houses as I could because I just wanted to like see what it was all about, and applied to everything once the time came. And I can't remember if we had to apply and then they accepted us in based off of our marks and then we had to submit a portfolio, or it was at the same time.
For Humber,
I don't know.
I don't remember either. I feel like it was all at the same time.
I think it was. Because I remember the application deadlines were after Christmas, because I spent almost my entire Christmas break that year just working on like stuff for my portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
I was certain that that's what I was going to end up doing. So, and like obviously the requirements for each school was different. Like the portfolio for University of Waterloo was very different than the portfolio for Carleton. It's like I'm gonna have to do a fair amount of work. So me and my art teacher, Carlos Viaz, maybe we'll have to get him on the show sometime too, actually talk to him. he went to Waterloo for visual arts a while back, but he helped me kind of tailor the pieces that I had to the different schools and say, you could use this for both schools, but maybe this other school will like this piece a bit more because that's what they do, right? Referencing Carleton, which is more technically oriented,
a little more leaning on the engineering side.
Whereas OCAD, be as artsy fartsy as you want, and you're set to go, kind of a thing. So I made up all my applications, applied to everything, and I went to the Humber open house in October of 2015 because it was still first semester of college. And I went there with the sole purpose to check out the architecture program, and I'll drop in on the industrial design thing just to see what it's like. And paid full attention in the architecture program. Was pretty certain that's what I wanted to do if I didn't get into any of the universities. So I was pretty hell-bent on university too. And then we stopped in at the industrial design thing, waited around a bit, listened to the people talk. I was like, yeah, this is cool. I don't think it's for me though. There wasn't anything.
Interesting.
It wasn't anything that really interested me in it, which is, looking back on it now, is very strange.
Yeah, that's pretty strange. That's funny.
So we finished, we left, came back home, and fast forward, say, to like end of February, all the applications have been submitted, and then now everything's starting to roll back in. Like all these, congratulations, you got accepted. Like I got into Carleton for architecture design, and their more math or engineering oriented architecture program, because I think they've got 3 there. One of them is like environmental architecture, maybe.
Right.
Architecture design, and then it may even just be like standard architecture is the 3rd one, which I think goes into more of the engineering on it. Obviously not an expert because I never went there.
Yeah.
But I got into those, got into Ryerson, got into OCAD, which wasn't a surprise, and got into the Conestoga programs and the Humber programs. I was like, sweet. Like I've got all these options to pick from now. And which felt weird because a lot of my friends who were in the same boat as me who wanted to do these architecture programs were getting like rejections from certain schools. And I was like, whoa, like I didn't get rejected from that. And I thought I would place your skill set way above mine in that whatever aspect it was. So I was shocked that I ended up in all these schools. It's like, wow, I've got options. I felt like I was on top of the world. And then I can't remember what made me change my mind, but it was in first week of April 2016. And the Humber open house was in 1 week. And I was looking through all these schools, and maybe I was looking at like job postings of like for architect and architecture designers.
Yeah.
And seeing like nothing. And like the idea of breaking into that industry was just, the barrier to entry was just so high.
Yeah, it was a little daunting.
You have to go to school, right? You have to do your master's to get your architect's license.
Yeah.
Once you finish your 4 years of your bachelor's degree. And I was like, yeah, I suddenly don't know if I want to do all that school anymore. Like granted, it's only 2 more years, but it's also the cost of that is expensive, right? So that made me step back a little bit. All right, okay, let me look at this industrial design thing at Humber really quick. The open house is in a couple days. Maybe we can go down. Now this is after I've gotten a part-time job, and I had to work the day of the open house. I was like, oh man, crap, I can't go. And I'm not going to know if I like the program if I can't at least go to this open house. Ended up switching my shift to the afternoon shift. So the open house was from 9 to 1, and I was supposed to work from 1 to 6. And I was not about to be late to work. But at the same time, I'm thinking this is my educational future.
Yeah, it's pretty worth it.
Like the lives are at stake. So convinced my dad. I said, hey, Dad, I'm not sure if I'm keen on this architecture stuff. He's like, oh, really? I said, yeah. In like a stressed voice. And so we went to the Humber open house, and I remember Patrick, our program coordinator, was there and he was talking. And one of the other professors that was there that was talking was Bruce Thompson, he taught us in second year for sketching, and he teaches the vehicle design, co-teaches the vehicle design studio with another prof. And this is at the end of the open house now, and I'm like paying vivid attention, like taking in every detail of what all these people are saying, and like just trying to get as much information to help inform my decision, I guess you could say, as best as possible. Especially because now I'm like debating changing all of my ideas of what I want to do for school. So I'm like, yeah, I've got to pay attention big time. And open house ends, and I'm talking, or I'm waiting with my dad, and I'm like keep looking down at my watch because I'm like, I'm going to be late for work. And Bruce is talking to this guy in front of me, and I'm like, I need to ask Bruce this one question. Said I'm debating between architecture and industrial design. Which one would you pick? Which, in fairness, looking back on it now, is a pretty dumb question because this guy teaches for the industrial design program. It's like a pre-biased question, basically. I didn't know that. I wasn't thinking like that at the time. I'm thinking I got to get this answer and I'm going to be late for work. And told me, or finally this other guy in front of me left. I think the guy in front of me actually was Evan Demchak.
Oh, interesting.
I think. And we love Evan. So, but man, he almost made me late for work. But finally got out and got to talk to Bruce. And I asked Bruce, I said, "Hi, Bruce, my name is Dylan." He goes, "Hello." He's got an accent, like a bit of an accent.
A slight English accent. Every now and then.
And I said, "Hi, Bruce, my name's Dylan." He goes, "Hi." I said, I'm in high school, like I'm finishing high school now, and I'm debating between this and architecture design. I've been accepted into all the architecture design programs I've applied to. I'm just waiting on confirmation from Humber. And if I get into Humber, I think I'm going to pick Humber. If I don't, I'll go and do architecture. But I said, like, which one would you pick? And he goes, "Well, that's a very good question. And I guess he had the same dilemma when he was going to school." And he said, like, the job prospect and the opportunities that you can get out of graduation from an industrial design program, you may, in quotation marks, maybe have more luck coming out of industrial design as opposed to architecture. Like the potential for employment is higher in this industry. And that's simply because the architecture industry is so niche. He said, like, you won't be the guy who designs these giant skyscrapers in Dubai, right? That's what everyone wants to do.
Yeah.
But only one person in one firm gets to do that. And I'm like, you got a point there. That's a fair point, Bruce. And in him saying that pretty much solidified my decision. So I went home, got to work on time, only 10 minutes late.
Nice.
Not the end of the world. And that night I Googled industrial design on YouTube, watched the Humber videos that were on there that the college produces, and I just tried to get as ingrained as possible. Went into school on the Monday and told my teacher, I said, I did it, made my decision. I accepted my offer of, like, my conditional offer. I accepted it. And that was that, kind of. But even then, like up until the last point, like a week before the open house in April, I was still undecided. And I think that probably is similar to what you were feeling. Like,
yeah,
knew what you wanted to do, and then all of a sudden there's this thing that interrupts that, this like sentient being that's like, yeah, no, you're not going to do what you thought you wanted to do for your entire life.
Yeah, it's a bit scary. And when it hits you, all of a sudden you're like, oh, actually, I don't know.
Yeah, you're like, maybe I'm not as confident in what I want to do as I thought I was.
Yeah, that's interesting then. Definitely that was a big factor.
Yeah.
Of informing your decision was the the job opportunity side of things.
Mm-hmm. And then coming back and actually paying attention to the industrial design thing, like seeing what they did, because there was some older student there showing some sketches in his sketchbook, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I can do that. Little did I know, was I wrong?
Yeah.
But it was seems like for both of us, it was that last minute decision.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, yeah, buy everything else that I've ever known. I'm going to leave you. I am now going into industrial design.
Yeah.
Strange, isn't it?
It is very strange. I remember going to the open house too, but I definitely wasn't at the open house when you went. When I went with my parents on like, must have been around April. Must have been close to the end of like when they were doing the tours. And we go, and we're waiting in like the lobby, like the LRC.
Yep.
The main
big building.
Big building. Yeah. Where like all the tours start.
Yeah.
And we're like all the students there in the Humber t-shirts, tour guides, and we're waiting, and we go to the desk and like, oh yeah, this tour for industrial design is gonna be starting soon. Just wait over there. And there was like 2 other families or something like that waiting. And then we're waiting, and like the time when the tour's supposed to start, like no one's there. I'm like, so we go back and we're like,
where
is there a tour guide, or are we just like kind of wing this? We're just walking around. They're like, oh, we'll see what we can do. So they call some like student from ID, or I think it was only one. Yeah, it was only one. And they came around like, oh, I'll show you around. So they take us to N building and where all the kind of the design stuff is. And they're taking us around, and I think it was I'm trying to remember his name. He's like Asa.
Asa, I'm pretty sure.
I think it was him. Because I remember being on like the 2nd floor of N building, and we're about to go into the room where Patrick was doing his kind of speech. And one of
Which
the parents,
is where I was.
Yeah, and someone had asked him about like laptops or something like that, and he was talking about like, oh, what you need and everything like that. And then I think Patrick did his talk on that, and I'm just sitting there with like a big smile on my face when he's going through all the classes. I'm like, yeah, this is it.
This
sounds cool. I don't think Bruce was there. I don't remember him being there.
Bruce was talking to me.
Yeah, too busy talking to you. And then I remember going to and we go into one class, and like Glenn is there.
Yep. And
then Glenn takes us around like the back end of N before they put all the windows in.
Oh yeah,
when it was just like mostly walls. Yeah, and they had all like the posters of like past thesis work and some of like the Umbra competition stuff and the other design competition like posters. They were, I think, ABC and stuff like that. They were all along that wall, and he's like stopping off at like every poster and like giving like a half an hour lecture on just this one project, and then we go on to the next one. And
it's like, I'm getting all the information. I don't even need to go to school anymore.
Yeah, I'm like, I turn around to my dad, and my dad's like, this guy really likes to take his time talking.
Like, yeah, that's Glenn.
That's Glenn. So yeah, I remember that. But at that point, I was so set. I was like, I'm not changing my mind anymore. This is it. It was just going there was just like, my parents were like, you should probably just go there just to make sure, right? Just to see what it's all about.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, to double check. But at that point, I was like, nah, I don't really care. It's definitely a yes for me, you know?
I think when you know, you know.
When you know, you know. And that was unlike when I thought I knew I wanted to do architecture, or when I thought I knew I wanted to do engineering. It was like, that was more like architecture. When I thought I wanted to do that, that was because I was like, well, I want to be an artist, but I want to make money.
Yeah. Tough, isn't it?
And I was like, what's like the most obvious, more well-known thing where I can be creative and draw, but still make money? I was like, well, architecture is kind of popular.
Architecture's artsy-ish.
It's more well-known, and you get a little creativity in there.
Very contemporary.
But you can also still make money and make a living from it, whereas, being a full-time artist is a bit sketchy.
Yeah. Good pun there.
And then, And then engineering, when I want to do that, I was like, I feel like the reason why I do that was like the money.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
good money.
Engineering, if you can be good at engineering, you can make some money pretty quickly out the gate,
Mm-hmm.
But then when I was in industrial design, I was like, without being cheesy, I was like, deep down, I was like, this just gut feeling, like this is, without even thinking about jobs.
Yeah.
Or like I remember in the program one of their sales things, I guess, call it when they're like, the program has like a 90-something% employment rate, whatever.
90-something% employment rate within 6 months of graduation.
Yeah, and I was like, at that point, I was like, I don't even care what the rate was. I was like, I want to do it.
2%. I'm still gonna go.
Yeah, I'm still gonna do it. I don't even care. So it wasn't even the money. It wasn't even, I don't know, anything like that. It was just like, I know I want to do this.
Yeah.
Because deep down, I'm just like, this, something about it just seems right. And I'm glad I went with that gut decision,
Mm-hmm. You got to learn to trust your gut.
Yeah.
And that's what I've noticed too. Like,
definitely.
I was uncertain about architecture to the point that I considered other options, right? Like I still applied for programs I still applied for the industrial design thing anyway, which to me signals that even though I was pretty sure I wanted to do architecture, I wasn't 100% set on it because I gave myself other options.
Exactly.
Right. So there's one thing that I've learned out of that. It's like don't just settle on something. Like if I had settled on architecture, definitely would not be sitting here right now. But odds are probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed industrial design school, and the fact that now I've learned all that and can apply that to anything and everything that we do in the future. So trust your gut.
Yeah, I think it was just funny that when I was picking that program, 5 minutes prior, I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, it's strange.
And then 5 minutes later, it's like, well, I'm applying for this thing I didn't even know existed until now.
Oh, I like that.
That's kind of cool.
Need that as a quote.
There you go.
Yeah, get that soundbite. It's at 51 minutes, 52 seconds.
5 minutes after I applied for something I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, talk about rushing decisions.
Yeah.
Hasty.
That was one of those things, I guess, the only reason why I was so set was that gut feeling. I was like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah, it's right. You feel it. You're like, yeah, I did this.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's worked for us ever since. So doing something right.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I think that's a good spot to cut off episode 3.
Yeah, it's a good way to end it.
Episode 3 of the Process podcast. If you have any questions or like what you're hearing, want to hear more of it, subscribe, whether that's on, I think this will end up on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, and maybe some other platforms. We'd like to get into doing YouTube stuff eventually.
That'd be cool. Ultimately.
Doing some Instagram stuff eventually. It'd be pretty cool. But if you have any questions, you can send us an email to hi.theprocesspodcast@gmail.com. And whether that's for questions, feedback, we're not professionals. The only accreditation we have is a single Bachelor's of Industrial Design degree, which I think does qualify us.
Yeah.
We've got experience in air quotations. Don't come to us for an expert opinion or an advice. We'll give you our personal experience, which I think is valuable in itself.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's not just our experience that's valuable. If you can find someone who is graduating or has graduated from a program and just talk to them, say like, I'm a high school student. Can I ask you some questions? Most likely they'll give you 10, 15 minutes just to answer some questions.
Yeah.
Because it's like they can help you out. So ask questions, do all the good stuff. And I think that's it from us.
Yep. Thanks for listening.
And we'll see you in the next one.